What's going on YouTube? This is Austin here from Austin, Dakota, coming at you again with another video for you guys today. And today, welcome to part 3 of my rock and metal CD collection. Part 2 is now out on my main channel, and I also put it on my Patreon page. So if you want to check out my Patreon, check it out. It's patreon.com/AustinandDakota. I'll have a link in the description box below for you guys to go check that out. But continuing on with my rock and metal CD collection, the last album I talked about was Grafitner's Death Swings Widespread. So let's go ahead and continue on. Hopefully you guys can hear that. Slipknot, Volume 3, The Subliminal Verses. This came out in 2004. One of their best albums in my opinion. I really like this one. That is going to give off a major glare. I do apologize. Singles off this album are Duality, The Blister Exists, Vermilion, Pulse of the Maggots, and Before I Forget. Favorite track off here, my 3 favorite tracks I'd say is Duality, Before I Forget, and Pulse of the Maggots being number 1. But I'd highly recommend this album. Great Slipknot album, definitely check it out. Slipknot, Volume 3 of the Subliminal Verses, released in 2004. Next up, Marduk, Panzer Division Marduk. This came out in 1999, I think. I don't have a year on it, but yeah, love this one. This and Those of the Unlight are my 2 favorite Marduk albums. Absolutely love this one. I love the cover art. As you can see, you got a string of bullets here and a tank. And the disc is really loose in here, so it's kind of a bummer. And there it goes, because the insert is broken. That holds the disc in place, it's broke. That's a dang shame, but yeah, I love this album. 3 favorite tracks off this album, I'd say, are Beast of Prey, 502, and Baptism by Fire, my favorite track. But yeah, I'd highly recommend this one. Marduk with Panzer Division Marduk, released, I believe, in 1999. If I'm wrong, someone let me know in the comments. Alright, moving right along. Disturbed, their compilation album, The Lost Children. This came out in 2011. Yeah, I really like this one. Great compilation album. It's got a bunch of B-sides that were unreleased. I've been wanting this Disturbed album for a while, and I finally got it, thanks to a friend. But yeah, I really like this one. It's got some really good tracks on it. Great B-sides. I believe the 2 singles off the album were 3 and Hell. As I am trying to readjust this camera, I'm sorry. My 3 favorite tracks off the album are 3, Hell, and Mine being my number 1. I freaking love Mine. I mean, I definitely check out this B-side compilation out. Highly recommend it. Disturbed, The Lost Children, released in 2011. Moving along. Megadeth, their 3rd album, So Far So Good So What. This came out in 1988. Really like this one. For a while, this was my favorite Megadeth album. And I'd probably say this is a close second. I have more Megadeth in this box that you'll see. I'm a big Megadeth fan. Absolutely love Megadeth. But yeah, highly recommend this one. I got some heavy metal and hard rock playing in the background. At the beginning of the video, I don't know if you heard or not, but I had Slither by Velvet Revolver playing. You're now hearing Purple Haze by Jimi Hendrix. I believe off the Jimi Hendrix Experience album. I love this one. My 3 favorite tracks off the album are Anarchy in the UK, Hook and Mouth, but in my darkest hour, it's got to be number 1 for me. Highly recommend this album. Megadeth with So Far So Good So What, released in 1988. Go pick it up if you can find it. Nickelback, Feed the Machine. This came out in 2017. Very underrated album. I don't understand why people really hate on Nickelback, because they like their 2000s stuff a little bit more. So that would be Silver Side Up, Onward. In my opinion, No Fix Address was their weakest album, in my opinion. No Fix Address has got some good tracks on it, but I think that was their weakest album. In my opinion, Now and Then was the last good Nickelback album. And then they put out this one. Yeah, I really like this one. They recently put out another one, but I forget the name of it. But yeah, love this one. This one's really good. Singles off this album are Feed the Machine, Must Be Nice, and Song on Fire. Those are like the 3 tracks, or the 3 singles off the album. But my 3 favorite tracks, I'd say Must Be Nice, The Betrayal Act 3, and Home being my number 1. Yeah, really like this one. Definitely check it out. Nickelback with Feed the Machine, released in 2017. Metallica, the Black Album, or the self-titled album. This was released in 1991. I have the 91 original pressing. I don't have, like, the reissue or whatever. But yeah, I love this album. This is my favorite Metallica album. I don't care what anyone says. Oh man, it's giving off a really bad glare. I'm sorry, but yeah, I've been wanting this Metallica album for a while. This was like one of my most sought after albums, but people with this album, they said that Metallica like abandoned their thrash roots when they put out the Black Album. I can kind of see that, but at the same time though, they were still good. But yeah, I love this one. Singles off the album are Enter Sandman, Sad But True, The Unforgiven, Where I May Roam, and Nothing Else Matters. Those are their 5 singles. But my 3 favorite tracks off the album, I'd say, are Holier Than Thou, Of Wolf and Man, and I'd say The God That Failed is my favorite track off this album. But yeah, love this album. Definitely check it out. Metallica, the Black Album, or the self-titled album, released in 1991. Sticking with Metallica, their 4th album, And Justice for All. This came out right before the Black Album, 1988. Love this one. I have the 2018 reissue, so it's a little digipack, which is kind of nice. This is James Hetfield, in my opinion, at his angriest. Just some great tracks off here. Singles off this album are Eye of the Beholder, One, Eye of the Beholder, and Harvester of Sorrow. And there's the disc. I have this on cassette as well, but I want it on CD too. My 3 favorite tracks off the album, I'd say, are Harvester of Sorrow, One, and The Shortest Straw being my number 1 favorite track off this album. But I highly recommend this album. Metallica with And Justice for All, released in 1988. One second. There we go, sorry about that. Ozzy Osbourne, 2nd album, Diary of a Madman. This came out in 1981. Big album for Ozzy Osbourne. This was the last one to have Randy Rhoads on it. He died in an accident after this album was released, which is really sad because he was absolutely amazing with Ozzy. But yeah, absolutely love Diary of a Madman. It's such a bummer that Ozzy's not doing so good. I wish Ozzy well. I hope he gets better. My 3 favorite tracks off the album, I'd say, are Sado, Over the Mountain, and You Can't Kill Rock and Roll, which is my favorite track. Highly recommend this one. I love this one. Ozzy Osbourne with Diary of a Madman, released in 1981. Go pick it up if you can find it. Yeah, my copy of this is all, like, warped and all that, so I don't know how I can fix that, but Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory, I have the 20th Anniversary Edition. I don't really consider this to be a 20th Anniversary Edition. This came out in 2000, one of the big albums that came out around that year. But as you can see, this is this is literally all you get. The lyrics and the disc are in there, but I find this to be more of a vinyl look than a proper CD look, in my opinion. I want to say rest in peace now to Chester Bennington. There are 2 discs, which here's the first one. Yeah, here's the first one. It's got the main tracks on it. Singles off this album, as I take out the other one, is One Step Closer, In the End, Crawling, which is my favorite track. And here's the B-side rarities. My 3 favorite tracks off the album, though, are One Step Closer, In the End, and Crawling being my number 1. But I would definitely recommend this album out if you're a big Linkin Park fan, like I am. Definitely check it out. Linkin Park with Hybrid Theory, released in 2000. If you can find an original pressing of that album, get it. The Essential Judas Priest. This came out in 2015, I think. I believe, yeah. Compilation album of Judas Priest's greatest hits. Yeah, love Judas Priest, as you can clearly tell. I'm a big Judas Priest guy. It's got stuff from the debut album, British Steel, Screaming for Vengeance, Painkiller, Stained Glass. It's got so many good tracks off here, and off some great albums by Judas Priest. So I definitely recommend this one, The Essential Judas Priest, released in 2015. Next album, Flesh God Apocalypse, Agony. This came out in 2011. Italian orchestral death metal. And it's absolutely fantastic. I love this album. Freaking heavy as heck. The drummer on this album is just an absolute machine. My 3 favorite tracks off the album are The Betrayal, The Forsakening, and The Violation. The Deceit, which I believe is an instrumental. There's an instrumental in The Deceit that makes it transition and go right into The Violation. But yeah, great freaking album. I love this one. If you can track down a copy, get it. Flesh God Apocalypse with Agony, released in 2011. Go pick it up if you can find it. Sorry, CDs are being a bit contrary. Oh, I skipped over one. This one come out of that. KK's Priest, their only album. Sermons of the Sinner. This came out in 2021. This is my favorite album of 2021. Freaking love Sermons of the Sinner. This is by KK's Priest. For those that don't know who KK Downing is, KK Downing was the guitarist at one point for Judas Priest. He left the band, he left Judas Priest, and he went to form KK's Priest. But yeah, I love Sermons of the Sinner. Absolutely love it. If you like that classic Judas Priest sound, then you'll find it on this album. There you go. My 3 favorite tracks off the album are Sermon of the Sinner, Metal Through and Through, and Brothers of the Road being my number 1. Yeah, love this album. If you like that classic Judas Priest sound, you'll find it on this album. Definitely recommend this one. KK's Priest with Sermons of the Sinner, released in 2021. Go pick it up if you can find it. Obituary, second album, Cause of Death. This came out in 1990. I have it's the Obituary remasters, which that's fine because I've been wanting this album. So I don't care if this is a reissue or not. I don't care if it gets remastered or reissued. Because bottom line is, this is my favorite Obituary album. People say Slowly Rerot, I can understand that. But I think Cause of Death was just a tad bit better than Slowly Rerot. Yeah, John Tardy. on lead vocals, just absolutely amazing. My 3 favorite tracks off Cause of Death would be Dying, Circle, or Chopped in Half, and Circle of the Tyrants being my number 1. So if you could track this album down, definitely check it out. Obituary with Cause of Death, released in 1990. And I realized I skipped over an album, so I'm going to go ahead and backtrack a little bit and just go ahead and pull that album out. Immortal, their debut album, Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism. This came out in 1992. Yeah, like this album a lot. However, it's not Battles in the North. I think Battles in the North is better than this album. But I like this one, though. Immortal, in my opinion, were trying to harness their sound. You can kind of tell a little bit of Bathory worship is on this album. But yeah, love this one. My 3 favorite tracks off the album are Cryptic Winter Storms, Blacker Than Darkness, and I have to agree with Bryce Talks Metal, Cold Winds to Funeral Dust, the MVP on this album. But yeah, definitely check this out. Immortal with Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism, released in 1992. And actually, believe it or not, this album is the only one to have Armageddon on drums. But yeah, love this album. It's good. I like it. Now that we're back on track. Obituary. Sticking with Obituary. This is the only other album I have by them. Inked in Blood. This came out in 2017. I like this one. Not a lot of people do, but I seemingly do. I think it's a good album. However, it's not like the old Obituary. It's not Slowly Rerot. It's not Cause of Death. It's not The End Complete. If you like that material by Obituary, stick with them. Stick with that material. But I mean, I think this is a good one. The very first Obituary album I ever got. My 3 favorite tracks off the album are Deny You, Out of Blood, and Visions in My Head, which is my number 1 favorite. But yeah, highly recommend this one. I definitely check it out. It's not their best, but it's still a good album. Obituary with Inked in Blood, released in 2017. Next up, Ozzy Osbourne, Osmosis. This came out in 2001, I believe. 1995. Sorry, 1995. Yeah, this came out in 1995. This is a good album by Ozzy Osbourne. This was still good era Ozzy. I have another album by Ozzy that I'll talk about in a minute. But this one's one of my personal favorites. Love Osmosis. I mean, Perry Mason, Thunder Underground. See You on the Other Side, which is the best track. My Jekyll Doesn't Hide. Yeah, love this album. Great album by Ozzy Osbourne. If you could track this album down, definitely check it out. My opinion, one of the better Ozzy albums after... I believe this came after No More Tears. I believe. But definitely check this album out. Ozzy Osbourne with Osmosis, released in 1995. Sticking with Ozzy Osbourne, Black Rain. This came out in 2007. Don't mind the scratch right there. That's a huge dent right there in the case, but don't mind that. This is a good album by Ozzy. In my opinion, the last good Ozzy Osbourne album. Up until at least I'd say Patient Number 9. Now, Patient Number 9, that album's underrated. I really like that album. But yeah, sticking with Black Rain. This was a good album by Ozzy. I still like this one a lot. Although it doesn't have the same replay value as some of his other albums. So, but I can still listen to this one by Ozzy and be satisfied. Yeah, great one, great one. Singles off this album are Not Going Away, I Don't Want to Stop, which is the best track. And I believe Trapdoor was the 3rd single, I'm not sure. But yeah, definitely check this one out. If you're a big fan of Ozzy Osbourne like I am, then you'll definitely like this album. Ozzy Osbourne with Black Rain, released in 2007. Metallica, their latest album, 72 Seasons. This came out this year, 2023. I don't see why a lot of people give this album hate. I personally really enjoyed this album. Granted, it's kind of Metallica returning to their thrash roots a little bit, and you can hear that on some songs like the self-titled track, which I will talk about the singles in a moment. But this is the actual album cover for 72 Seasons. I got this, I believe, the day of release, and I popped it in and absolutely loved it. But yeah, I really enjoyed 72 Seasons. I'm not going to take it out or anything, but you know, I will. This is really cool. As you can see James right there. On the back it says 72 Seasons. And it kind of opens up like a little gatefold. So headphones here. One of the members here. It goes up a little bit. You kind of got like a globe. Another member, and then there goes the booklet. Here's the booklet for 72. And there's the disc for 72 Seasons. I really like the setup of this album. It's way different than a standard jewel case or whatever. And for a little bit, I didn't know how this went back together. But I'd assume it would just go back together like a regular box. It does open up a little bit. Singles off this album are Lux Eterna, which was the big one. If Darkness Had a Sun. So it's singles off the album, like I said, Lux Eterna, If Darkness Had a Sun, self-titled track, and Too Far Gone are the 4 singles off this album. If I had to pick my 3 favorite tracks, I'd say Sleepwalk My Life Away, Lux Eterna 100%, and Crown of Barbed Wire, which is my favorite. When I first heard Lux Eterna off this album, I was absolutely blown away, because it kind of sounded like Metallica was going back to their thrash roots before they went to their heavy metal roots. And it was like a standout perfect track for Metallica. So definitely check this album out if you haven't. Metallica, 72 Seasons, released this year in 2023. Again, I don't understand the hate for this album. I thought it was really good. Really enjoyed 72 Seasons. Megadeth, 4th album, Rust in Peace. This came out in 1990. This is my favorite Megadeth album. Before anyone says anything, this is my favorite Megadeth album. Love this one. In my opinion, they really harness their sound. In fact, they harness their sound when they put out Peace Sells, and I'll get into Peace Sells when I can. But yeah, love this one. Holy War's The Punishment Due is my favorite Megadeth song. But if I had to choose my 3 favorites, I'd say Tornado of Souls, Take No Prisoners, and Holy Wars obviously being number 1. So definitely check this album out if you haven't already. Megadeth with Rust in Peace, released in 1990. Meatloaf, his debut album, Bat Out of Hell. This came out in 1977. Big album in Meatloaf's career. I believe this was his best-selling album to date. Love this album. This is such a classic. Rest in peace to Meatloaf, who we lost, unfortunately. But yeah, absolutely love this album. So freaking good. Such a classic, man. Such a classic. This is a classic album. Singles off this album are Bat Out of Hell, obviously. You Took the Words Right Out of My Mouth, aka Hot Summer Night, Paradise by the Dashboard Light, and 2 out of 3 Ain't Bad. So my favorite tracks off the album are I don't know, because I think this album is a classic. I don't think I have a favorite track. But this is that's really tough. I mean, it's really tough to pick your favorite track off Bat Out of Hell because it's such a classic album. It's so tough. But if I had to say, probably Paradise by the Dashboard Light. Check this album out if you haven't already. Meatloaf with Bat Out of Hell, released in 1977. Alright, I'll show 2 more and we'll end it here for part 3, because we are around like 25 minutes, and that's incredible. Poison, 3rd album, Flesh and Blood. This came out in 1990. This is their best album. I would probably go out and say this is my favorite Poison album. But in my opinion, it's just not as good as Open Up and Say Ah. Still though, it's still a good album. I like it. My 3 favorite tracks off the album, I believe the singles off the album were Strange Days of Uncle Jack, Flesh and Blood, which is also known as Sacrifice, and Unskinny Bop. Good album here. I actually really like this one, but this is kind of more of a heavy album, like more heavier than Open Up and Say Ah, but I still think it's a good album. My 3 favorite tracks off the album are Strange Days of Uncle Jack, Swamp Juice, and Come Hell or High Water, which is my favorite track. Definitely check this album out. Poison with Flesh and Blood, released in 1990. Alright, and the last album I'm going to show for part 3 is going to be Shinedown with their 3rd album, Sound of Madness. I believe their 3rd, released in 2008. Great album. This is my favorite album by Shinedown. This was their heaviest. This was them at their heaviest, in my opinion, but also kind of mellow at the same time with the last track, Call Me. But yeah, love this album. The deluxe edition's got Breaking Inside with Lizzie Hale of Hailstorm, which I love Breaking Inside. That's not my favorite track though, but the singles off the album are Devour, Sound of Madness, The Crow and the Butterfly, and If You Only Knew. My 3 favorite tracks off the album, I'd say Cyanide, Sweet Tooth Suicide, The Crow and the Butterfly, and Sin with the Grin being my number 1. So yeah, definitely check this album out if you haven't already. Shinedown with The Sound of Madness, released in 2008. Alright guys, we're going to go ahead and end it here for part 3 of my rock and metal CD collection. Come on back for part 4. Part 2 is out, so if you want to watch that video, go check it out. And like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed part 3. Come on back for part 4. If you guys enjoyed this video, please comment, like, subscribe down below. Be sure you hit the bell notification as well, so that way you don't miss any more videos like this in the near future. Consider joining my Patreon. It's gonna make more videos like this possible. So check it out. Link in the description box below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.